Good evening, everybody. Welcome to CW Live. My name's Chris Webb, Head of Communications at the CW. Delighted to be joined tonight by our General Secretary, Dave Ward, and our Deputy General Secretary, Postal Acting, Andy Fury. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah, good. Yeah. Good evening, everybody.
It's good to have you both with us as well. So everyone knows that tonight is a big event. Everyone knows that Royal Mail have effectively declared war on postal workers across the UK. We're not going to sit by, and we won't sit by and see your terms and conditions destroyed. And we're not going to sit by either and see the company and allow the company to spread lies about your union without any counter from us. And we're not going to allow working class people and postal workers to be bullied by millionaire CEOs and board members either. So we're going to have a fantastic session tonight, split into three distinct parts. Firstly, we're going to dismantle this pile of absolute rubbish from the company, the propaganda that they've put out, calling on some sort of fact-checking of the union's communication. So we're going to dismantle that point by point with Dave and Andy in the session tonight. Secondly, in reaction to the declaration of war by Royal Mail, we are going to set out a newly agreed and freshly agreed postal programme of industrial action agreed minutes ago by your postal executive. And then finally, we'll get you ready and we'll make sure everyone's in the right place for Friday and Saturday strike action, which is so critical that everyone comes out and backs that action. And we know that we all will. I also want to let everyone know, I don't know if you didn't know, many of you don't use the workplace propaganda platform that we saw a post this morning. I'm just trying to find it for you as I scroll through my many posts on here from Royal Mail CEO Simon Thompson. There you go. I can put it up on screen. Simon says he's going to be watching us tonight and he's going to be fact-checking the commentary of Dave and Andy. So interesting, Simon. Maybe you should spend a bit more time fact-checking your own commentary. But if you are interested in Simon and you think he's on tonight and you watch, maybe you could send him a message. If you do not believe in that, then stick in the comments right now. Fact, I am going on strike. Let's give Simon a really interesting fact or two to check as you start this session. Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to go straight into the document, which I've talked about earlier on. It's got 5 points in, Dave. I'm going to come to you first of all, if I can, buddy. It says here that they've checked the union's claim that Royal Mail's clear intention is to de-recognise the union, and that is definitely not the case, apparently, Royal Mail say, Dave. So they're going to rip up our national agreements. They're going to rip our facility agreements. They want to change the right to negotiate to the right to consultate. And in this final line, the CWU needs to urgently change. So Royal Mail telling an independent trade union what it needs to do. But that is not de-recognition, apparently, Dave Ward.
Well, I mean, Simon, I think, is becoming increasingly bizarre in the way that he's presenting some of these arguments. And obviously, this is a response to the session we had last week, where we told our members what had actually happened at the meeting with a company where they didn't want to talk, didn't want to negotiate, a completely staged, managed process. And his communication really just illustrates even more how strange some of the behaviour has become. Because what would be much more effective is if we were actually sitting negotiating, something that the company have not wanted to do now for months and months. So let's be absolutely clear. What we're saying is this is them signalling their intent to de-recognise the union. We're not making it about the union. I think you guys know enough about how this union has protected our members, the sort of agreements that we've negotiated over the years that are completely in your interest, and more often in the interest of the company as well and customers in terms of the services that we provide. So, we're absolutely clear that this is a pathway to de-recognising the union. Why? Well, the company who says they're serving notice on how you collect union subscriptions is always seen as a company that's de-recognising the union. A company that doesn't negotiate and just keeps putting executive action in over the heads of the union, over the heads of employees, is de-recognition. That's where we know we're going. We're not going to accept that, obviously. But Simon Thompson needs to wise up, really, to, if he wants to solve these problems, you don't de-recognise trade unions. you actually sit and negotiate with them, something that he's not done for months now.
Thank you, Dave. Brilliant. Andy, I'm going to give you a chance to elaborate on that, buddy, and any views you've got on the denial by Royal Mail. Apparently, we're all mates and there's no move to de-recognise the union.
Well, the Post Executive's been in session all day today and has considered all of these documents and the language used, which is becoming increasingly bizarre. Indeed, it's surreal to say we value our union relationships. And he says it twice in this section of his letter. I mean, if he really does value the union relationships, he should get round the bargaining table with Dave Ward and myself and work out a deal to bring this dispute, both disputes, pay and change, to a satisfactory conclusion. So it's all very well using these words, but they're meaningless, they're hollow, and quite frankly, they're just, they're just designed to hoodwink people. And I'm convinced our members will see through this and will understand that the actions of this employer is attacking the union, and by definition is attacking our members, because the union and its representatives are there to safeguard and protect the jobs, the terms and conditions, the pay, the well-being of our members. And without an effective union, which he's trying to make us ineffective as such, he is attacking by definition, he's attacking our members, and it is de-recognition, de facto.
Thank you, Andy. Spot on, buddy. Want to move on to point 2, because we want to move through these. Because, I mean, the thing is, when we know that we're fact-checking Messrs. Thompson and Co.'s communications, is we know, that they're absolutely rubbish. We've seen the way you've taken that out on the workplace platform. But point 2 says, further major attacks on terms and conditions. Not true. Apparently, Dave, it isn't true that the serving notice on all of our national agreements is not attacks on terms and conditions. It isn't true that asking people to start 2 or 3 hours later is not an attack on terms and conditions. It isn't true that annualised hours, that less sick pay, less allow for retirement pay, and the plethora of other things Royal Mail want to do. Apparently, that isn't attacks on terms and conditions.
Well, I mean, look, we've sent the letter out to our branches that we received. What we noticed was that in Royal Mail's own communications, they weren't explaining what they're really doing, but it's all in the letter that we've sent out. Our members can read it for themselves. Our members are not stupid. They know what's going on. The proposals that Royal Mail have been going on about for some time now are the biggest attack on our members' terms and conditions there's ever been. We go into a meeting last Friday to try and see if not last Friday, I'm losing track. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday. To see if we can move the dispute forward. And the company turn around and say, there's another 5 or 6 agreements, national agreements, that we're serving notice on. Some of those agreements are pretty fundamental about the future of Royal Mail. And, we're here to tell you tonight, they are definitely up in the ante in attacking your terms and conditions. Some of the agreements that they've served notice on, obviously the Agenda for Growth agreement has all the legal protections in. And I think that if it wasn't true when we say that they want to break the company up, they want to potentially move to a franchise model in delivery, they want to bring in more bogus self-employment terms and conditions for workers, lower terms and conditions, levelling down, well, then just have a look at the protections that they've ripped up. That explains it all, because they're all those things. So, they're just lying about what they're saying to our members. But most importantly, you can get a copy of the letter that Royal Mail sent us, and you can make your own mind up on that. But you've already seen the reality of the changes that they want, the unacceptable nature of those proposals in what they've actually sent out to you on their own workplace and what they've been talking to you about for ages. So I just find the whole thing incredible that they should respond after they serve notice on loads of national agreements. By the way, one of them is about how you use technology and how you use the information that Royal Mail obtain from the technology. And there's absolutely no doubt about it that they intend to use that information to get rid of people and to enforce their own business standards, not standards that we've agreed in the past. That's one of the agreements that they're ripping up. They're ripping up every trial agreement that we've got. So they're going to introduce things without trialing them, without looking at how they would impact on you. It's outrageous what they're doing. what's more outrageous is the way that Simon Thompson is trying to present that to our members.
Thank you, Dave. Fantastic. Andy, any comment? I think Dave laid it out really well there, and I know you might want to add to the fact that, I mean, if it wasn't so serious, it seems almost damn laughable that Royal Mail claim there's no tax on our members' terms and conditions. Andy?
And our terms and conditions. Why did they send the letter last Thursday serving notice on all our agreements? I mean, it's a nonsense. It was a 3-page letter from Simon Thompson. It listed agreement after agreement that they were serving notice on. Some of those agreements they were given a month's notice, which would expire on the 20th or 21st of October. They made it very, very clear that they wished to bring in new sick pay arrangements and new sick trigger points for regular attenders. And they also made it clear that they want to bring in new performance measurements to essentially manage people out of the industry who may be deemed poor performers. Look, the reality is this is a fundamental attack on our members. By serving notice on those agreements, they are taking away long-held, cherished, properly negotiated safeguards and protections of our members. And the result of this, if we don't stop this from happening, is our members will be more vulnerable in the future.
Spot on, Andy. Thank you, buddy. So we'll just reach a few minutes in. I need to tell you too, we've had 25,000 people online so far. It's absolutely fantastic, but you can help us. Please keep sharing the link. Please keep putting in the comments. I can see all your comments, by the way, all the people say, in fact, I'll be going on strike. I had to stop because I had to think about my next question and stuff, but it really is inspiring, and we'll get some more of them up on screen. Also want to say as well at this juncture, we can't go through this session without saying the good luck to our post office members who face strike action tomorrow, and also a fantastic well done to the Royal Mail Group Property and Facility Services members, cleaners and engineers who absolutely smashed their ballot result today. So well done to you as well. Dave, point 3 on this ridiculous piece of communication from Royal Mail is around apparently it's not true that he's trying to facilitate the breakup of Royal Mail. The first thing they say, by the way, which I thought was interesting, is that the union is trying to create around a potential Visa takeover a misleading narrative, and it's designed to create fear from the situation, which I found strange, between almost denying the fact, which I'm just going to whack on screen now, that there's an actual government inquiry into the takeover of Royal Mail. So as if like we've just fabricated this out of air, when actually the government are looking into it because that's what Visa want to do. So, I mean, that's, I suppose, a starting point to you, Dave, is like, again, completely ridiculous from them as a company. But a little bit about the Visa, because it seems like the other thing they're trying to do with this is pin it on the union, as if like we have the power to take over the company.
I mean, look, they're clearly rattled by this. And, it's important that we dissect all of the allegations that he makes in his letter. And if after we've had this conversation, anything we're saying is not true, then Simon Thompson's more than welcome to come on and explain that, and we'll deal with that jointly in front of all the members. We're fine with that. So the first thing I think we've got to be clear on is that, he doesn't mention in his letter at all, and he's never mentioned in any letters, the fact that this is an ongoing government-led investigation into whether or not Visa are fit and proper to take over Royal Mail. They've called the Visa company in to see whether or not they've got connections, presumably that they're not sure about. We don't know that. I mean, these things do happen from time to time, but this is a National Security Investigations Act that is legislation. And what's important here is that, it came to light, this is exactly the facts. We wrote to the company, myself and Terry, I think it was on the 24th of August, saying, was there any truth that there was a potential takeover going on? Now, their response the following day was not to answer our letter. They've never answered our letter on that question. But a statement appeared from the government and the company the following day after we wrote that letter, saying that this Visa company had been called in. Now, why is that important to us? Well, they're a private equity investment group based in Luxembourg. And what those companies do when they look to take over companies like Royal Mail, they're doing it to make money. What they do is they break up the company, they make money out of it. And for us, there's some important questions that we've got to ask the company about, and we're asking the government about. One of them is what happens to the pension surplus. So there's a £1.3 billion pension surplus in Royal Mail. Effectively, anyone that comes in takes control of that surplus. We also know that the GLS company that Royal Mail owns is worth probably around £3 or £4 billion. So whoever comes in has control over what happens to GLS. Our view on GLS, and we keep asking this question, Simon Thompson refuses to answer it, is there's one of two possibilities with GLS. One is they do sell it, and that money will go to the shareholders, and most of that money will go to the shareholders who've got the most shares, Vesa in this case. Or two, they keep it, and we are beginning to think, because the market is not great at the moment to sell a business, they may well keep it. And the reason that the shares went down, I think it was the week before last, is because JP Morgan issued a statement to the city saying it wasn't a great time to sell acquisitions, and that they advised Royal Mail not to sell it. But our concern is also that they're going to use GLS to replace our members in delivering parcels and set up a separate parcels network. That's why it's important we raise all of these questions, we get all of this out on the table, and we make sure that they are telling the truth about what's going on. Not to raise these points would mean that we're being irresponsible about what's actually taking place. And, you know, I'm just going to repeat this at every point along the way. They refuse to answer fundamental questions about your future.
Thanks, Dave. I've got to come, brilliant. And I've got to come back to you, though. Just a couple of Pacifics, and I want to bring Andy in after that. But it's his Simon Thompson's words I'm going to quote back at you. It's important to note that we believe senior CW executives themselves met with Vesa on a number of occasions, and Dave Ward, obviously you, have been aware of these meetings for several months. Or we not heard Mr. Ward say that to his members in his speeches about Vesa. And the CW must know that the secret talks are unfounded and untrue because they themselves have met with Vesa. Dave Ward.
Yeah, so they know that Terry Pullinger, the Deputy General Secretary, met Vesa sometime back, over 6 months ago. I think it was probably before that, back in December, because they instigated that meeting. That meeting was...
Sorry, Dave, but don't be really rude here, but just on that point, before you go on your speech, I think it's important to let Royal Mail know, particularly since they're fact-checking, that we got the receipts on that, because here's the email, isn't it? Where it's, if your members can see that on screen, where Royal Mail actually set that meeting up, and you can see there, the 3rd of December, 2021. So not only almost a year ago, and not only a totally different subject matter, which I'm sure you'll cover, Dave, but actually a meeting instigated by Royal Mail. Pity Simon didn't mention that one. Back to you, Dave.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've just shown the letter that explains that the meeting did take place and Royal Mail knew about that. I mean, why they would write that in that way, particularly when Terry's off sick, when they actually knew that it was Terry that met them, I think is really distasteful. And I think it's unforgivable that they should try and suggest that was some kind of secret meeting when they've actually instigated the whole thing. Terry's explained to us that he met them, I think, on an introductory meeting on the 8th of December. It was a shareholder engagement meeting. These type of meetings do take place between unions and companies. As I said, instigated by Royal Mail. He met them again on 15th of February on a face-to-face meeting. And he had a coffee, I think, with one of the guys, an assistant in the company, around about April. And what I'm saying to you is Royal Mail knew all of that. They've suggested in there that the CW has met them, but they actually knew it was Terry because they instigated that meeting. But that was for a completely different purpose to what we're now alleging, and we're accusing Royal Mail of secret talks with Vesa over a takeover bid. That was months and months ago. So, you know, I mean, it's just wrong what they've done. We are absolutely clear. Nobody else has ever met Vaser. And we're absolutely clear that what Royal Mail are doing here is trying to twist something that they instigated to defend their own secret talks with Vaser. So, you know, let's carry on and deal with the other allegations, Chris, if you want.
Yeah, I want
It says that I knew about it some months back. Well, I did, and Royal Mail know that because the chairman told me that Terry had met Vaser. He told me that as part of a conversation I was having with him towards the end of June, where we were talking about getting a four-way meeting going, which is something that we've requested on so many occasions, but for some reason, Royal Mail refused to want to have that meeting, myself and Terry, the CEO and the chair. It was a meeting where he also told me, by the way, that the company would put more money on the table to try and resolve the dispute, and that they were willing to move on some of their proposals if we could get into proper negotiations. Now, I don't know why that ever didn't materialise after that, but that's the reality of that conversation. I raised that with Terry. I dealt with it directly. I raised it with him at a meeting. I put correspondence there to explain what the chairman had said. And as far as I'm concerned, you know, I mean, I completely accept Terry's explanation on that. The executive accept Terry's explanation on it, and the national officers accept Terry's explanation on it. Because the reality is, from time to time, under certain circumstances, you will meet shareholders. So we've dealt with that situation. But what we don't accept, and I'll keep coming back to this, he goes on to say that somehow, like, I don't mention that in speeches. Well, we're more interested in the meetings that have taken place recently that have led to the government's investigation. And that's why myself and Terry, knowing all of that, wrote to Royal Mail, wrote to the Secretary of State, and we stand by every point that we've made in those letters that have all been published. Simon Thompson could have said this at any point. And I think it really does show, not only is he a disingenuous person, I think he's particularly distasteful to do it in the circumstances that he's put this out there. What do I really believe? I actually think that Simon Thompson may not be telling the truth to the rest of the Royal Mail Group board. The alternative is that the whole of the board are in on it. But let's get the meetings going. Let's talk about it. Why do they not come out and explain at any point along the way what is actually going on with Vaser? So that's the truthful situation. We all know what it is. We're all comfortable with that situation. And if Simon's got anything else to add on that, well, then come out and put it on the table, Simon. Don't do it in the way that you're doing at the moment, which is misleading our members.
Spot on, Dave. Actually, Simon, you got Dave's contact. Drop him a message right now. We'll bring you on right now live with our 25,000 members across all of our channels. You can put a question or two to you. I can see in the comments that. By the way, we should also say, I know Dave, you would want to say a word or two at the end. Best wishes to Terry to get well, quick recovery. Lots of members saying that as well. So you know, I hope you're watching Terry or relaxing, buddy, and getting better. Andy, same point. The point 3 of the letter, Royal Mail saying, Simon Thompson, said he's got no interest in turning the Royal Mail into a gig economy. He wants us to have the best terms and conditions in the industry, whilst at the same time serving notice on all of our agreements. And he uses this isn't made me lad. It's a bid, apparently, their plan to level up the industry. So that phrase didn't go too well for Boris Johnson. We all know what happened to him. Hopefully, it won't go the same way for Simon Thompson. Andy, their gig economy plans.
First and foremost, it's all smoke and mirrors, and the words are just hypocritical. Let's not forget they want to bring in new terms and conditions, and by that, inferior terms and conditions for new entrants. So, you know, they are attacking terms and conditions, albeit it's for new members. The other situation is that the cessation or the serving of the notice of the legally binding agreement takes away a massive protection that stops outsourcing and stops the TUPE of our members to other companies. So by serving notice on that legally binding agreement, technically Royal Mail have now got the ability, once that notice is exhausted, to outsource any part of Royal Mail and for our members to be TUPE to another company. Now, if they don't have any intention to break up the company, the challenge then is to restore the legally binding agreement and ensure that they can't break up the company by outsourcing and none of our members will be TUPE. So Simon Thompson's got the ability to withdraw his letter, the offending letter of last Thursday, where he served notice on these agreements. Ultimately, I think this will backfire on him massively because our members will not stand or tolerate for their jobs, their livelihoods, their well-being being attacked in the way that it is.
Thank you, Andy. Brilliant, buddy. Moving swiftly, got 4 or 5, 2 more of the points to go, and then we're going to be obviously announcing what we're doing in terms of the future action. This is a classic amongst many classics from Royal Mail in this one. Apparently, we're deliberately creating the circumstances to make the USO unsustainable. That was in our LTB. Not true, says Simon Thompson in big bold letters and underlines it as well, makes it red. So as if, really, really important from Simon there. Our commitment to the USO is unwavering, is Simon Thompson's words. Funnily enough, Simon, these are also your words, mate. We would like a 5-day USO because it's what the customer has asked for. 7 days parcel with low CO2 again, because what they've asked for. So are you committed to this USO or are you committed to the one you were committed to 2 months ago, Simon? Dave?
Well, again, Chris, I mean, you've explained there by showing Simon's own words that it's not true. We would go further than that, though. The proposals to move deliveries back by 3 hours, 2 hours, over 70% of staff by 2 hours are absolutely ridiculous. They will mean that the company is moving all its eggs into one basket, and they are definitely out to undermine the USO. They're never going to come out and say that. What they're going to do is create the circumstances where the USO becomes uneconomical. And if you think about this and you link it back to what we believe is happening with wider plans to take over the company, people who take over the company, rather than seeing the USO and Simon Thompson seeing the USO as an advantage, they actually think it's a disadvantage. And this is why we're never going to agree the sort of proposals that they're putting forward to completely abandon the AM period. It is a mistake of enormous proportions. It will deliberately undermine the USO, and then the regulator will come along and say it's unaffordable. And then what they'll probably do at that point, they'll go to the government and they'll say, well, you'll have to take that on. We're now concentrating on parcels. So it's a free card trick. They know what they're doing. It's outrageous again. And what they should be doing, by the way, is making the USO the cornerstone of their modernisation plans. Because, any company that delivers 32 million addresses every day of the week, if they can't get a competitive advantage out of that opportunity, then to be frank, they shouldn't be running the Royal Mail. And that's where we've put forward serious proposals, which were a part of the agreement that we made with the company, part of the strategy that they signed up to expand the role of postal workers, because we believe there's some great ideas that we could jointly put into practice that would actually help grow local and regional economies. I think we can make that case, and we will be making that case very strongly to the government. And at the same time, they would add social value in helping people in society who might be a little bit vulnerable. Now, these are things that we were meant to be agreeing and meant to be talking about over the last 6-7 months, a year, since we actually done the agreement. And it is absolutely noticeable that Royal Mail have turned their back on that agreed strategy. And that's why we are 100% of the view that they intend to destroy the USO, but by a very sort of free card trick way of doing it. They're not going to do it up front. No one will do that. But we know that their proposals will end up with that, and our members know that as well.
Thanks, Dave. Point 5, Andy. I want to come to you on this one with regards to how genuine Royal Mail are about going to ACAS. So genuine. On the same day they sent the letter about going to ACAS, they served notice on all of our national agreements, punched us in the face, and then kicked us between the legs by saying we want the union to be moved from negotiating to consulting. I mean, you've been over the years in many decent negotiations, many not so decent negotiations with ACAS. Is this a really genuine offer from the company in terms of the way they've positioned it to go to ACAS for negotiations? They say so.
Could you? So on the one hand, they write a letter saying, shall we go to ACAS, in a half a page letter. And on the other hand, they write a 3-page letter serving notice on all our agreements, taking away all the safeguards and protections, and essentially wanting to put in arrangements that would make our members more vulnerable. We do not believe for 1 minute that they are genuine. The other problem is that in these negotiations, and I use the word very loosely, they've never put real people in the room that are empowered and have authority to negotiate and bargain. Unfortunately, the decision makers have kept aloof from those talks. So, Simon Thompson wants to do a deal, then Dave and I, and Dave or Terry, will be more than willing to get around that bargaining table and to negotiate and thrash out a deal. Okay, ACAS might be able to help us, but they need to show real serious intent, no conditionality on any talks whatsoever at ACAS. And we would always be prepared to sit down and negotiate, but there's been no evidence of the company being willing or prepared to do that whatsoever over the last 6 months. And a leopard really doesn't change its spots in this regard. So we take that we just don't believe that they are genuine, sincere. If they are, let's get around the table tomorrow or Thursday.
Thank you, Andy. Fantastic, buddy. So I think it's come. I think you guys. I think that's what we think. Go on.
Chris,
the Royal Mail propaganda, Dave. Go on.
Can I just add to the point that Andy's raised? We've written to Simon Thompson, offering to meet him tomorrow, offering to meet him Thursday, and we've said to him that if he wants to talk about going to ACAS, well, let's also talk about how we're going to resolve the dispute. Let him come to the meeting prepared to answer some of the questions that he completely refuses to answer, that are important questions about the future and what their plans lead to, which he just will not look at you because he can't answer them, because he knows we're right on some of these points about what they're going to do by setting up a separate parcels network. We're just asking him to confirm that that's not the plan. And yet he will not answer that question. That is, by the way, the RICO back plan. Now, let me deal head on with this ACAS thing. If you walk into a meeting where you're going there under the expectation that you can start to talk about resolving the dispute, and when me and Davey went in there last week, we actually had a proposal to put on the table. He says he doesn't want to talk about that, and then hands you 2 letters, and it's stage managed with everybody outside. And the 2 letters, I mean, it is incredible to do this. You give one letter saying we're taking all of these agreements away, serving notice on them, and then you say, oh, but by the way, now that we've opened up this massive chasm on top of already all of the other pros, we'd like to go to ACAS. This guy has not been in the room for months and months. He's refusing to negotiate. It is the first time in the history of industrial relations between the CWU and Royal Mail, and I would suggest any trade union, that there's never been any talks with the senior people. They're doing everything possible to keep them out. And we're intrigued, by the way, if Simon is watching, perhaps he can tell us what's happened to the chairman, because I think they got him locked up in a room somewhere, keeping him out of the way. I mean, it isn't, all it takes is get in the bloody room and let's have a sit down and talk about these things. So all our members need to know is he's not been interested in talking all the way through this, and it is a completely disingenuous act to suggest that somehow they're serious about talks at ACAS. But what I will say, Simon, you're on there watching, pick the phone up, let's talk to you. And we'll meet you tomorrow. We'll meet you Thursday, whenever you want, mate. We've said it before, anytime, any place, anywhere. But get in the room and come to the room prepared to negotiate.
Right. Thanks, Dave. I want to move on now, if I can, and I want to ask Andy to comment on this. So the Postal Executive have agreed today, and it's a significant moment. Obviously, you've seen what Royal Mail's done. Lots and lots of you in the comments have been calling for the union to escalate the action, where we're about to announce that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be moving to a mix of single day action, but also rolling functional action, 19 days of strike action, with each member being involved in 9 days, a program spread right throughout the peak period. So I'm going to read through those now as briefly as I possibly can. So October action, 24 hours for everyone on the 14th of October on pay, 24 hours on the 13th of October, 24 hours on the 20th of October on change, 24 hours on the Tuesday, the 25th of October on change. In November, we moved to functional action Wednesday with all of network on Wednesday the 2nd. On Thursday the 3rd, we have processing, distribution, international collections, admin and MDEC. On the 4th of November, we have delivery, Friday the 4th of November. On Tuesday the 8th, all of network. Wednesday the 9th, processing, area distribution, international collections, admin and MDEC. On the 10th, we have all of deliveries. On the 14th, we have all of network. On the 15th, we have processing, area distribution, international collections, admin and MDEC. On the 16th of November, we have all of deliveries. On the 23rd of November, all network. 4th of November, processing, distribution, collection, international, admin and MDEC. 25th of November, all of deliveries. All out on cyber Monday, the 28th of November. So that's everyone out on cyber Monday. On Wednesday, the 30th, we have all of network. On Thursday, the 1st of December, we have all processing, area distribution, collections, international, admin and MDEC. And on the Friday, the 2nd of December, we have all of our deliveries. And in the overall program, our parcel force, fleet and engineers will be aligned to the most appropriate functions dates following consultation between our officers and our senior reps. So there you have it, everyone. A significant escalation, but in response to a significant escalation of Royal Mail moving to rip up your terms and conditions. Andy Fury, you led the discussions at the Postal Executive today. It's only right you comment and let the members know why we have moved to 19 days of strike action between now and the 2nd of December, which will mean 9 days pay loss for each of our members. A significant escalation, buddy.
So the feedback we've got from our representatives, from our members, is that we need to up the ante, and that's the phrase that kept on being used by our Post Executive members. So this is a unanimous decision of the Post Executive. So it's 19 bouts of action. Some of it is national. The first 3 days in October are national, and then we then move into functionalised strike action. It'd be a maximum of 9 days overall, depending on people's attendance patterns and shifts and such like. This is a real statement of intent, and it's in direct response to the fact that Thompson will not get in the room and negotiate. And it's as a consequence of us delivering, our members delivering massive yes votes on pay and change. But it's also a response to the serving the notice of all of the agreements last week, when he effectively ripped up by serving notice all the protections, all of the safeguards, everything that our members have hard fought and won over many, many years. So the Post Executive has taken this very seriously. We've engaged and consulted with our senior field officials during the course of today. It's a unanimous position. It's balanced, it's measured, and it's a statement of intent that says to Royal Mail very clearly, we are going to take this action and we mean business. If you want to stop this action from taking place, get round the bargaining table and thrash out a deal that will be worthy of support by our members.
Thank you, Andy. Brilliant, buddy. Dave, lots and lots of support. Someone said Simon's gone quiet. We've delivered him 19 pieces of fact there to chew on for the next couple of hours. What would you say? Because obviously, this is a significant escalation, Dave, and there will be members, obviously we say 19 days, it's 9 days, just to repeat, it's 9 days for each member. We're not expecting every member to take 19 days strike action. It's 9 days on, and some of the actions Andy's just detailed is on a rolling basis. But it is nonetheless a significant escalation at a really difficult time for working class people in this country. Is it the right response, Dave? And is it a measured response?
It's exactly the right response because we've got no choice. We didn't want to be in this dispute. We wanted to negotiate a settlement. The company are the body here that have walked away from talks right the way through this for the last 6 months. They've never sat in the room at the highest level with myself and Terry, the CEO and the chair, or whoever he wants to bring in there. They've never done that yet at any point along the way. And yet they keep taking action against our members. They keep implementing change as we're speaking. They're introducing more and more executive action. We've got no choice here but to do this. What it should signal to everybody is what me and Terry have said right the way throughout this dispute, and what the executive and all of our reps know is that we're in this for the long haul. This is the most serious dispute that we've ever been involved in. It's a dispute where the company are attacking our members' terms and conditions like never before. Our members saw all of that when you voted over 98% in favour of strike action against the change proposals. They've treated our members with utter contempt on the pay. They've imposed 2% and they've rewarded themselves and shareholders. They knew all of this was coming. And we're going to say to you now, this has been a deliberate action by Royal Mail over a period of time to get to an end game. And then what they've delivered last week was part of where the end game is. Get rid of the union so they can attack the workers even more, break up the company and make more money for themselves. And I'm saying to you now, guys, we're not going to accept that under no circumstances. And Thompson needs to understand, if he's still around watching it, if he hasn't collapsed after hearing some of that, that we're ready to talk. He doesn't have to go through all of that. All he needs to do is get in a room with his team and start negotiating properly for the first time in 6 months. And if we can find a resolution, CW always wants to find a resolution. We think there are ways of dealing with change in line with the agreement that we previously had, and expanding that to deal with the circumstances that the company faces at the moment. We're up for that. He's going to have to put more money on the table. They've already said they'll put more money on the table. So there's one simple message to Simon. If you want to be in a place where we resolve this dispute, get in the room and start negotiating. If you choose to carry on behaving the way that you are, then we will take that action. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. And our members will support that. And I'll come on to why it's important now, tomorrow, that you go back in to the workplace. They've got the ability to send letters out, spend loads and loads of money on that. We front it up directly in things like this. We'll put out communications. But all of you who are on here tonight, go back and tell the members to get behind the union, get behind the union next Friday and Saturday, and get ready for those other strikes. But let's hope that they come to their senses and that we can conclude a deal. And that's what the strike action is about. That's why we have to put it forward. But as I keep saying, Simon, get in the room. Let's sort this out.
Spot on, Dave. Brilliant. I want to ask you both one more question, and then I want to give you a chance to sum up what I think has been actually an inspiring session. The comments, I know you guys don't get to see them, are really, really uplifting. And actually, what if you're in there and you're back in your union, here's something else we can give the viewing Royal Mail senior management. If you're really proud of your union and you're going to back us on these 9-day strike actions, simply put CW and proud in the comments now, and I'll get as many of those up on screen as I possibly can. So CW and proud. Andy, whilst the members do that, buddy, I want to ask you, Dave's just touched on about people going into work tomorrow, carrying the message, being confident. And I want to ask you both the same question, actually, because I think it's worth both of you commenting on it. Is there are managers, varying degrees, some don't want to tag all of them in the same bracket, but there are managers who are relishing this. I had a message today from someone who was said apparently Royal Mail have got a super team of really high-profile volunteer managers who are going out there saying the union are liars and you've got to go to work. And, you know, these are the same people, by the way, who are getting a massive £1,000 bonus plus to break our strikes. We're seeing the non-operational managers offered a day in lieu and 100 quid shopping vouchers, but, you know, 150 quid shopping vouchers. But what would you say, Andy, on the importance of our members in the right way, because we don't want anyone in trouble, but challenging those managers who are going to, from tomorrow, be in their faces, basically threatening them and telling mistruths? How is it important that everyone on this session becomes the union and carries our message?
You would expect decent human behaviour from managers. I know some of them struggle to understand that concept, but it wasn't so long ago that Unite was in dispute with Royal Mail and actually had served notice for strike action itself. And of course, then Royal Mail came up with a deal because they knew that our dispute was in the wings. So, look, you know, I think Unite actually have got due cause to be balloting their members for strike action as well. And I think that Simon Thompson needs to understand that he's using and abusing his managers and to create even more tensions in the workplace. So, look, we want our members to behave appropriately. It's quite right that they say to the management, you shouldn't be behaving inappropriately. I mean, it's blood money, isn't it? 150 quid in whatever vouchers and a day off in lieu. I mean, it's just crazy. They can find money to try and have strike breaking tactics, but they can't find enough money to give our members a decent pay rise with the 2% imposition. Let's not lose sight of the fact Royal Mail is the aggressor in this dispute, and our members understand that, and that's why they voted very nearly 100% in both ballots to take strike action on unprecedented turnout. So, you know, the post-executive decision today, we haven't taken that lightly. We've mulled it over, we've debated it, we've discussed it, we've consulted with our reps, and we've listened to the feedback from our members. And our members are saying, you know, they ain't having it any longer. We're not going to be treated and abused in the way that Royal Mail is trying to do that. So, you know, we're drawing a line in the sand. You know, we're not going to take this any longer. But if Simon Thompson wants to find a way forward, it's very, very simple. He gets in the room and we thrashes out a deal with the senior leaders of this union.
Thank you, Andy. Spot on. Dave, what I want to, a slightly different twist on the same question for you, if I can, buddy. And that is that, you know, we've been at Labour Party conference this week and there's been some Unite CMA reps there who, you know, I don't think they would even mind us saying like they're saying exactly what you and Andy have been saying on this session. You know, that, you know, they don't want, they can't work with this current leadership. They're totally out of control. And that they don't support what we're doing. So, you know, there will be a lot of managers out there who are reading this, you know, quite frankly, pile of rubbish from Royal Mail that we went through tonight and then ripped up and saying, I just don't want to do that. What would your message to those people do? Come on board. Come and join us.
Exactly that, Chris. And, you know, what we can report is that Unite seconded our motion at the conference this week, at the Labour Party conference, that called for Royal Mail to be renationalised and called for the Labour Party to call out all of these things that are going on at the moment. I think I mentioned that earlier on. But what's also really interesting is that the senior reps in Unite are actually saying to us now that we're going to have to consider balloting again. I think he's not just lost the dressing room in our members, which has been evident for a long time. I think they've actually lost the dressing room with the managers. I don't think the managers believe in what Simon Thompson is doing. But of course, you know, it's up to them at the end of the day. They should do the right thing now. I think they've been shafted, if I'm being honest, about the agreement that they made. That agreement to set up the new managerial structure, we believe, once they remove the legal protections, is the next step of that. Won't happen immediately, but it will happen, is franchising of deliveries. And that is the plan. And I think the managers, if they care about the future of Royal Mail, if they care about their own jobs, and if they care about the services that we provide and having a proper vision for the future, they should get behind what the union has been putting forward, and they should be balloting their members for strike action. We're going to continue to, you know, try and have conversations with Unite. I suppose that our members get extremely annoyed if some of those managers cross picket lines and whatnot. I mean, at the end of the day, that's up to them. We don't like seeing that at all. But maybe it's time to put the serious issues on the table and say to Unite, come on, guys, you know what's going on is wrong here. Get behind your own union and make sure that you now ballot for strike action against the plans and the proposals that Royal Mail are putting forward, the real plans. And, you know, I mean, I would also say this to you, we're being contacted regularly by managers who have been in this business in the past, senior managers who cannot believe that Royal Mail are putting forward these plans. And I think there's a lot of people out there that will start to join the CWU in putting forward an alternative vision. I do want to make this point. We're not just sitting here taking strike action. We're in talks with people. We're asking to meet the government to put forward an alternative vision. If we ever get the opportunity, if they ever release Keith Williams from wherever he is chained up, me and Terry are asking to meet the board so that we can put forward an alternative proposal that would actually ensure the future success of this company. And I think you've got to keep reminding yourself at times that, you know, why is it they won't have those meetings with us? It's as simple as that, because they're not telling the truth. Well, the time's come now. You know, this is a very serious dispute. We're going to do everything possible to resolve it. I do hope, I really do hope that the managers who have been talking to us this week, who know that this is wrong, actually now take on the employer in the same way that our union is.
Thank you, Dave. Spot on. So we're right at the end now. I'm going to give you both, starting with you, Andy, buddy, if I can, just a minute or so to sum up your final message to the members.
Well, first and foremost, this is, as Dave says, a serious dispute. It's probably unprecedented in the last 30 years. We need all of our members to be stand up and be counted. I'm absolutely confident from all reports that Friday and Saturday is going to be monumental in terms of support. That will help to turn the screw even further on Simon Thompson and co. And if he wants to avoid, though, future action, the 19 days around Cyber Monday and Black Friday and all the rest of it, in the autumn pressure period, if he wants to avoid strike action on those dates, then he needs to get round the bargaining table. Our members can help us with that by showing determination and resilience by taking action on Friday and Saturday. And just one last shout out for our post office members that are also out on strike again tomorrow over pay as well, over pay freeze for last year. So, you know, the executive is very, very clear. We had no choice in this matter. We had to meet fire with fire, and the attitude and actions of Royal Mail, particularly with serving notice on all of our safeguards and protections last Thursday, meant that we had to respond very, very clearly and very strongly, and that's why we've taken the decisions we have today. I just want to thank the members for all their loyalty and support. They are marvellous.
Thank you, Andy. Brilliant, mate. Thank you for your comments there. I think you forgot to pick up on Dave message asking where Keith Williams is. So please free Keith Williams. If you're out there, Keith, hope you're well, mate. We want to also say, back on Andy said, massive solidarity to our post office members, and a reminder as well. We said it earlier in the session, maybe you didn't catch it, that our RMPFS cleaners and engineers delivered a thumping yes vote for industrial action today. I mean, particularly when you think, I mean, obviously the engineers brilliant as well, particularly those cleaners who during COVID took some of the highest risk positions going in some of those buildings and then, you know, been mistreated by the employer. What a fantastic ballot result from them, though. Congratulations. Dave, your final words, buddy.
Yeah, look, you know, guys, that this is a major, major dispute. You've been brilliant in supporting the union. You delivered fantastic ballot results. You've delivered great strike action. There's been great comradeship on the picket lines. Keep that going. What's happened in the last week, the disgraceful actions of Royal Mail, which we've exposed last week and which we continue to expose, your way of showing them that that's not on anymore is to get out on strike on Friday and Saturday and make sure that you tell all your colleagues about tonight's session. It's strengthened our resolve. Every time they try and hit us harder, we ain't putting up with it. It's as simple as that. And we will get you the deal that you deserve on pay. And we're up for the change that we think will be in the interest of you in the long term, and customers, and what we believe would be a future successful company. And we're going to fight with everything we've got until we get that. Carry on supporting us, guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dave. So just leaves me to close up the session, really. And first of all, say thank you to Dave and thank you to Andy. It's, never easy to come and front these things up, but they're always, as is Terry and all of the officers, always willing to come and do so. I think it's been a fantastic session, and at times it's been inspiring, and all the comments have been brilliant. So it's bigger thank you, really, than Dave and Andy goes to all of you who, on the back of an announcement of further strike action, have just shown that you're not going to be moved by the propaganda of the company. I think, as Dave and Andy have said, it comes down to choices, really, doesn't it? And you have a choice to make. Are you with your local rep, or are you with your strike-breaking local manager? Are you with your area or divisional rep traveling the UK for you to get the vote out and to get behind you and to get your terms and conditions improved? Or are you with the non-operational managers getting days leave and shopping vouchers to break your picket lines? Are you with elected union leaders like Dave, Andy, Terry, and others that have walked in your shoes? Or are you with a millionaire keyboard CEO? We know who you're with. We know you're with us, and we're really, really proud of you. Thanks for your support tonight. See you on the picket lines on Friday and Saturday. Well in, everyone.